Hey guys, I finally figured out how to use FreeType with the Lazarus and Freepascal FCL. Now I've tried using this before and I couldn't figure it out for some reason. Um, I just had problems with trying to figure which FreeType DLL I had to use, whether it was the freetype-6.dll, was it the 32-bit, 64-bit, which version compiled with which compiler. Anyway, there's a bunch of different options basically that the free type library can be compiled under Windows. And if you look here, it gives various links or sources to different projects and how they can compile the free type library. And what's finally worked for me was the DLL that was compiled on this GitHub repository. And if we go there, so this is the file that I ended up using and got my free type to work. So I'm going to go over what I have. I'm using the Windows 10 64-bit version, and let me just bring that up. All right, I think I closed it, but it's a Windows 10 64-bit version, got 16 gigs of memory, and oh, here we go, and a Ryzen 8 core processor. So nothing special here, and several Windows updates behind, uh, but my system is stable, so I don't want to update it. So that's that. Um, The compiler I'm using, I'm going to show you both with Lazarus and Freepascal. So the version of Lazarus that I have, I think it's the latest. Here we go. So it's 2.0.10. Here we go. I think this is the latest. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I can compile 32-bit and 64-bit programs with this. I've configured it so I can choose from the project options here. So I have a build mode for Win32 and the default will compile for 64-bit. And I have Freepascal, and the version I'm using here is the Win32 version only. And I only use this primarily for testing. Everything I do for Windows is primarily on Lazarus. I think it's just a better editor, and has the options to look up properties. So I'm not sure. Let's see. Does this have it? Canvas. No. So let me just show you what I mean here by that. So if you're looking for object properties or class properties, and you type in the name and hit the dot, it'll bring up all the property and procedure and function name that you can look up. So this makes it really easy to look up information, the inputs and all sorts of other information. Anyway, let's get back to this. So I'm using the example on the wiki, and I've modified it a bit. And here, let me bring that up so you can see how that actually looks like. So this is what's on the wiki. And so first thing we notice here is that this path here is for a Unix system. So you wouldn't use this on Windows. And on Windows, you don't actually have to set the search path for the Windows fonts that are located in the C Windows Fonts folder. It'll find those automatically. If you do have other fonts located anywhere else except outside of your current directory of your application, you can add those in the search path, and I'll show you with my example. And let's just see what happens when we use the wrong DLL, and what kind of error messages we get, because I wasn't able to figure this out initially, so it might be helpful if you actually see what happens. So I have a folder that I'm going to create the output here, and it's located right here in my projects folder under TrueType test folder. And so the output is something like this right now, but I'm going to just rename the DLL freetype DLL so it looks like there's nothing there. So here's my location. So I've named the renamed the 32-bit version of the DLL to freetype 32 and the 64-bit to freetype 64-bit. And I got these from the GitHub repository, which is located right here. I'll put this link in the video description. Anyway, when you download the file, it will look like this, and there's two folders, Win32, and you only need the DLL from that, and Win64, and again, only the DLL. You don't need the .lib file. So that's what I have in my folder. We can close this down now. Let's minimize that, and back to Lazarus here. Okay, so this is the default Windows search path. I have commented it out. You don't need to specify it. And I also have some other search path. I'm going to put the comment back in so it doesn't use those. And these fonts here, the Arial 16 cents, almost no. So you can specify just by the name. You don't have to put the extension. You do have to put the file name. I think with the Win32 font canvas settings, I think you specified just the actual font name, not necessarily the file name, just the font name. Here you have to actually specify the font file name, just the first part of it. And so I've modified things a bit. I've created a much larger canvas here. And let's try with the built-in fonts. Let's use Arial. And yeah. Okay, so let's run this and see what happens. So there's no freetype DLL that it's looking for. It'll complain to us. I need to delete this. Okay, let's try again. And here we go. So this is the error we need to be aware of. So it's telling us that it cannot load this, and it's because I renamed the freetype DLL files, so it can't find it. So we're going to stop, and I'm going to rename the proper one back, which is the 64-bit. Okay, let me just compile again to see which one it's trying to use. Okay, let's go back to 64-bit. And okay, let's try this again. All right, so it can't find the freetype DLL. So I'm going to rename it to just freetype, what it should be. And the freetype DLL is located in our project directory. So let's try this again. Compile and run. And okay, I see. I didn't comment out. Yeah, I need to comment this out because it's looking for that font, and that's not the font I want to use right now. So let's save and run again. And this time it worked. So I created this test font, and if we bring that up right here, we get test 2, 3, 4, 5, just like we have right here. We can just try this again. 1, 2, 3, and I will delete this. And here we go. So it's creating the right output for the right font right now. But if I switch my project options and go to my 32-bit compiler mode and try the same thing again. So now this is Lazarus 64-bit compiler, but compiling in 32-bit. So if we try the same example now, we get this. So this is where it might be confusing for someone who doesn't use Lazarus often enough, or to be able to figure out the right free type DLL should be using with this kind of error message. So right now it says free type DLL, I can't load it, but we do have a freetype.dll in the folder. It's the wrong kind though. So if we rename this back to .60 freetype 64 and then rename the 32-bit version to be like that, our example should work now. So again, compiling from Lazarus 64-bit using the 32-bit compiler option, output option, and this time it works. So let's just change that. All right. And so again, everything works. And if we try this example in Freepascal, same example, I'm just going to reload. Yes. So we have the same file, and this is a 32-bit compiler. So it's going to generate 32-bit output. So technically, this should also work. And let's call this test 32-bit. All right, and run. It was quick. And did it work? Yes, it did. Okay. So if I switch back to the wrong font again, just to see what happens, let's rename this back to 32. So right now there's no valid free type DLL in the path. Let's see what's going to happen. All right. So we get an error, and so the error that says here cannot load free type library freetype.dll, but it doesn't give us any hint that it can't find it or if it's the wrong one, because if we put the 64-bit one, let's see what kind of error message we get now. Compile again, run, and we still get an error. And if we look, it's still the same error message, but now we do have a DLL there. It's just the wrong one. So not very good information to give us a hint at what we're doing wrong. So rename this back to 64, and so now everything should work. Let's try again. Compile. Let's call run it. Okay, here we go. And that works. So now that we figured out, what free type library you need and where to get it from, I'm just going to explain a few other things I discovered. Uh, let's go back to Lazarus here, and the search path. So if you want to add additional fonts to your application, you could actually put them in the current folder of your application or subfolders. If you put them in subfolders, you're going to have to specify the actual location of those subfolders. So right here I have the subfolder called secret and secret 2. And I'm going to show you what happens when it doesn't find the font. So the font that I have in one of those folders is this one right here. It's the cutouts font. And let me just comment the Arial font so it doesn't get loaded. So now if I save this and run it, it will try and use the cutoff font, but it can't find it. So that's why we get this message. So this is at least informative. It knows it can't find this font, but let's say I uncomment the search path and see if it finds it now. And we didn't get any error messages. And if we look at the font now, it's a different font. So it found it because I had it in the secret to folder. And what I'll do now is I'll just move it back into the base folder. And if we comment the search path again, if it's in the same folder as your application, it will still find it. Let's just change the output here so we see that it's actually working. And it is. So it's able to find it when it's in your current folder, no problem. All right, so how about if we want to use more than one font? Well, you can just change the font name and it will use that specific font. So I'm going to create another line here and print with this font. Let's just cut it. Let's just put my name here and let's go 100 pixels down. All right, so hopefully we should get one font with the cutout, this right here, and one font with the almost snow. And let's see what happens. Yep, okay, that worked. So this is what we get. So we're able to use more than one font very easily. And let's see, I think I've covered everything I wanted to say here. All right, so you can assign the font when you create the class up here. So once you create it, you can assign it up here, or you don't have to assign it up there. You could actually assign it, assign the font after you've assigned the font class to the canvas font here. So in order to be able to write text to the canvas, you have to assign the font there. But you can assign the font name afterwards, so you don't have to assign it up here where you create the font class. You can assign it after you assign it to the canvas. So I think that's all the things I was a little confused about. If I haven't confused you even more, maybe this was a little bit helpful. So I think that's where I will end this. I will leave all the links to get where to get the free type library that the free type DLLs that I'm using, and hopefully it'll start working for you.